All righty, we are live, but we'll let it breathe just for a moment while we get the whole family in here. We got to do it. We need everybody here. It's the way it is. And it's an exciting, auspicious day because it's training camp week, baby. Welcome in, everybody. Let me do that again. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, today, from 24 hours removed from the last time we got to talk to our great community here, nothing really news-wise has broken. However, we are one day closer to training camp. So as I'm sitting down kind of going, hey, what should we title tonight's episode around? I'm like, you know what? Let's just make it a training camp primer. How's that? Because tomorrow we get to hear from Peyton, select players. It's the media barbecue. We're going to have some stuff, hopefully, so that by the time you and I are back on Thursday, the eve of training camp, there will be some plenty to get into.
Thank the freaking football gods that we've arrived to this point, Chad, that we actually have tangible news to break down, practice kicking off. It's a very exciting period. There is one news item I want to go over that broke kind of late this evening.
Yep.
Per Mike Kliss, Blake Watson, rookie running back who ended up on NFI earlier this week, he has a slight leg muscle tweak. He's expected to be fine, and he's only placed on NFI as a procedural matter because it occurred during the dead period. So good news there in the Broncos backfield. I'll have the article too after the podcast.
That is very good news. Yes, guys, look for the details on that after the stream. Sam Bam, what's going on, big dog? 2 nights in a row. Love it. Thank you. Always
Sam.
Great to see you. We appreciate your support. You know that, bro. Evening, guys. He says it's training camp week. Go Broncos. Yes, it is, baby. The beginning of a new era, the official year one, Zach, of the Sean Payton rebuild. The Ronk jumping in. Good to see you, Mike. Saying good evening, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Broncos. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, big dog. And all of our great Facebook community members. So good to see you. A couple matters of business. We'll get to that here in just a second. I want to say some hellos to Shiloh. What's up, Shiloh? Evening, everyone. Happy to have a quiet period from OTAs to training camp. Go Broncos and go MHH. I'm not. I mean, I guess everybody, you need to recharge a little bit, but like the addictive behavior in me, like I just want the things I want like all the time when I want them. So going 6 weeks, it's like, but then the wait, it's always worth it, Zach.
It is, but for the Broncos' sake, there was no arrest, there was no off-the-field trouble, there were no major injuries, I mean, except for Drew Sanders before the draft, but the 6-week break went about as smoothly as you could hope for the Broncos, and now we've arrived at training camp.
We got the Duchess jumping in from the top rope with a very generous super chat. We love you, Michaela. Hope mom's doing all right. She says, hi, guys. Thank you for your kind words. Words cannot express how much you guys and this community means to me. I love y'all. I love y'all. Mom is doing better. Awesome. Good to hear. I cannot wait for camp and preseason. Go Broncos. This is good news. This is really good news. I reached out, talked to Michaela a little bit after last night's show when we learned that she was in the ER with mom, and it sounds like she's on the mend, so this is good. Love you, Michaela. Stoked for Broncos camp this week.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michaela. And, the world needs more good news right now, and you've definitely provided that. So glad to hear that about your mom. And we're always thinking of you and your family. Anything we can ever do, we will do. Thank you as always.
We love you. Let's see here. The Ronk wants to know. Oh, and by the way, Eric, bro, thank you. Throwing down some stars. You've been throwing down some major stars lately, and it's not missed. Like, we're seeing it. We appreciate you. Thank you, buddy. Mike wants to know, Zach, so the veterans, they're reporting tomorrow, right? Is Cortland Sutton going to be there?
I don't see why he wouldn't be. We talked about this last week. I think it'd be a little awkward for him to stage an offseason holdout and then show up for mandatory, show up for the Broncos passing camp organized by Jarrett Stidham and then bail on training camp. I think he will be there. And like you, Chad, I do think the Broncos will acquiesce to his demands a little bit and bump him up a few million for his troubles.
I expect him to be there. And if he's not, I think the Broncos will make relatively short work of taking care of him so he can show up. And, you want to, after all the upheaval this offseason, Zach, and some tectonic changes, most of which, at least this far into the future, were necessary, but some of were painful. I mean, even the Russell Wilson thing, that's a painful, the consequences of that move are going to be suffered and the pain of that for the next 2 years, right? So like a lot of upheaval, a lot of change. You want your constants there. You want to start things off on the right foot. So if it's a couple 2.5, 3 million, 3.5 million, whatever that you add to his contract this year, or maybe you guarantee a bigger portion of what his current contract is, just do it. Just keep Cortland Sutton happy so that the Broncos start things off on the right foot.
There is going to be pain with Russell Wilson, but the best aspirin for that, Chad, will be the development and the success of Bo Nix. And we're excited to see how he prevails in year one. And you're right about giving him what he wants and kind of taking care of your core players. They took a step in the right direction with the big deal for Quinn Miners. I think Cortland Sutton should be rewarded as well.
Well said. Taylor, brother, great to see you. Thank you for the super chat. He's celebrating alongside us, going, hey, training camp is finally here. Let's see how Bo Nix does. Yes, indeed. It's going to be really fun to see how. I mean, the first thing is, hey, coach, tomorrow when he's at the podium, have you decided how you're going to divvy up the quarterback reps? Like, actually, hey, coach, have you made a decision yet on who your starter is going to be? If not, have you decided, coach, how you're going to divvy up the quarterback reps? We'll see if someone asks him that directly.
He's for sure going to get a billion questions about Bo Nix and the quarterback competition. And I'm excited to see Bo Nix in training camp. But I would caution to Broncos country, as I do myself, don't expect Patrick Mahomes out of the gate. I mean, I would expect maybe the opposite of Patrick Mahomes. A rookie quarterback, as experienced in college as he may be, it's a big leap to the NFL, and he's going to have his struggles. The defense is always ahead of the offense in training camp, usually, and they're going to have, poorer days than others. But trust the process and let him grow. Let him go through those bad days this summer.
I want to grab this one from the Papa Bear, Scott, and then we'll take care of our matters of business for tonight. So good to see you, David. Much love and respect. He's saying good evening to everybody. God bless the USA. And after the weekend's announcement of President Biden announcing he's not going to seek re-election after all, a week after what happened with the former president, Donald Trump, I think the nation could use some good vibes and some prayers. So good call on that, David. 12-5, though. Buckham times 3. Broncos for life. Bonos. Knicks for 6. Bo leave. Whew. Now I got a breath in edgewise. Thank you, Papa Bear.
I want to see how far this extends over the course of the year from David, if we can get you to take a couple breaths during these reads, Chad. I love all the hashtags, David. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. A few more lots, actually, left to get into. I mean, we're only 8 minutes into tonight's stream, but before we get any further into the key topics of this evening, we got to talk to you about what you're doing with your phone bill, because with the big wireless providers, what you see is actually never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying, everybody knows what I'm talking about here, magically skyrockets. But with Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about the gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase the 3-month plan, they mean it. So check this out. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with the premium wireless plans that start literally at $15 a month. All of the plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network, so you don't have to worry about sacrificing quality or coverage to get a better price. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Bring your own phone number if you'd like, along with all of your existing contacts, just like if you ever transfer over from another. It's real easy. And then ditch the overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal, and you get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. And Zach's about to tell you how you get that.
Yeah, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/huddle. That's mintmobile.com/huddle. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/huddle. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on a first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Easy peasy. Check it out, guys. Save yourself some bucks. All right. Right back into the chat. I'm sure there's a lot of people, Michaela Israel jumping in, going to training camp. We'll have a presence there, etc. I'll talk a little bit more about that probably Thursday night, but yeah, we'll definitely let you know, keep you in the loop on all those things. Okay. Yes. Oh, really? I'm just learning this from Mr. Producer. Ryan Reynolds is the owner of Mint Mobile. This is true?
Yeah.
Well, golly. Hey, you learn something every day. Okay, Zach, first and foremost, let's talk about the 3 big position battles and just like your outlook, starting with quarterbacks. Real quick, what do you expect to see happen? Things are kicking off Friday. That's when the cleats hit the grass. What do you expect to see happen at quarterback?
I expect to see a slight lead given to Jarrett Stidham, if only for continuity's sake. He has a year in the system, but my personal prediction, Chad, is it won't be long before Bo Nix overtakes him. The bigger question at quarterback to me is who is going to be backing up Bo Nix in 2024. Is it Stidham? Is it Zach Wilson? Are they going to carry 2 on the 53? What are they doing at Q? But I mean, even if Stidham runs with the ones for the first couple practices, it's only a matter of time before Sean Payton's hand-picked project begins to blossom.
I don't think it's going to happen. We'll find out maybe tomorrow. If it's going to happen, like if Sean Payton's just going to rip the Band-Aid off and say, here's what we're doing. I saw enough over the offseason to say, yep, I'm going with my hand-picked first-round rookie. We'll probably find out tomorrow, but I don't expect that to happen. I think they're going to let it kind of continue to play out, and then maybe we'll get a little clarity after the first preseason games out.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fair for everyone involved. And we talked about it last night, keeping the locker room happy, keeping the fans happy, keeping the media happy, while also doing what's best for your team. So if he wants to let it be fair and be impartial, he would let it go for a week or so and then, make a further decision.
All right, let's talk about running back. You have Javonte Williams defending his crown as RB1 in a contract year. You have Samaje Perine also in a contract year, to the 2 vets. You have the second year, Jaleel McLaughlin, and then that trio being pushed by 5th-round rookie Audric Estime, Blake Watson, as we mentioned earlier. And let's not forget Tyler Beatty as well. How do you foresee this battle shaking out?
Well, let's not forget Michael Burton too, Chad. It's a Sean Payton favorite. He counts in the running back room. My question is, how many are they going to carry at running back? If it's more, then it's a better chance that someone like Blake Watson actually makes the 53 out of camp. But I've been wondering this too. I think the status of Samaje Perine hinges on Javonte Williams, because anything that he offers, I know you like him in the passing game, but he's a very expensive number 2, number 3 running back to have at his current salary. The Broncos can clear up, I think, over $3 million by moving on from him. So I expect to see Javonte kind of take a step forward toward that pre-injury form. And you have Audric coming off the knee. We don't know his status. Doesn't seem like Watson's that hurt. A lot of moving parts in the backfield, but they have to divvy up who's going to be the early bruisers, the early down running backs, and then the speed scat backs, change of pace backs.
Today Keith Cummings wrote about how, hey, let's celebrate the small victories, right? And one of those being that as the Broncos placed 3 guys on the PUP list yesterday, guess who wasn't amongst them? Greg Dulcich. Well, in that same kind of vein, it's encouraging that Audric Estime is not starting off on any of the injury lists. That's good news. So I think fans can look forward to seeing him day 1 out there. Big bruising back, very similar to Javonte stylistically, maybe not as much wiggle. And that's not to say that Javonte is like, wiggle king, but I'm really excited to see Estime and what he can bring to this thing.
I just wonder, though, how full bore he's going to be. If the Broncos are going to be sort of cautious with him, or maybe they have flashbacks to Javonte. They don't want to risk another bruising running back with a knee problem. But when he gets going, when he's 100% and in game shape, I think he can carry the backfield. Irrespective of what Javonte offers, Audric Estime could be at least a 2-down player. And then you bring in someone off the bench like McLaughlin or Blake Watson, even Perine, who's a good pass catcher. It's a lot of versatility in that backfield. Say what you want about him, Chad, a lot of question, but also a lot of versatility.
I've brought up 2 of the big competitions. What's a position battle, Zach, that you're looking forward to that I've yet to mention?
Man, there's so many. I mean, what's going on at wide receiver? Literally every positional group. I mean, offensive line, you have center. I want to see who starts there. Alex Forsyth or Mustapher. You have the cornerback 2 battle, Riley Moss, and, insert name here, Levi Wallace. The safety battle, what's going on opposite Brandon Jones? Will it be PJ Locke? Caden Stearns is on PUP. Pretty much every positional group has a battle. But I would say on offense, I want to see what's going on at wide receiver and how that shakes out behind Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, who's going to be the Wiggle King, Scott, of the wide receivers? Oh, man. Let's see what Sam Bam says here with a second super chat tonight. Thank you, big dog. And by the way, guys, we will probably keep tonight relatively tight just because, hey, not a lot of news. We'll stay here as long as you guys want us to stay, but just keep that in mind. So if you have burning topics, questions, supers, etc., best to get it in early, like Sam did here. He says, what are your guys' thoughts about Vance Joseph going into his second year as defensive coordinator? And what things did you like and dislike about the defense from last year under VJ? Go Broncos. This is probably an area that my partner and I are going to diverge a little bit, but Zach, you start off. What's your answer for Sam?
I mean, the easy answer, knowing my history with VJ, is I don't think highly of him, and there's not much to like. The one thing I did like that we hadn't seen since Wade Phillips was the Broncos' propensity to create turnovers, Chad, because it changed the course of games and helped the Broncos go on their winning streak. But again, just like in his first stint, there was so much to dislike about VJ's defense. The bad run defense, the soft coverage, the late blown leads, just the overall lack of killer instinct. And I think Sean Payton realized that. That's why you brought aboard Jim Leonard, who's a DC in waiting. I mean, VJ really has to be on his P's and Q's and clean it up from week one in order not to be fired. That's my honest assessment.
You know what? My thoughts about Vance Joseph, I did share a brain with Zach when the decision was made to hire him. I mean, Sean Payton was like, really? What, dude? You want that bad juju that he brought to the table? What was it, Zach? A total of 11 wins over 2 years as head coach. But be that as it may, it looked like the confirmation was right there. I mean, brutal first quarter of that season. I mean, easily the reason why the Broncos started the season 1-5, the low light of that Miami game, etc. But I got to tip my cap to him, Zach, because unlike as a head coach with the overall team outlook, Vance Joseph persevered through the adversity. His guys rallied behind him. And not only did they stanch the bleeding, right? They stopped it. Blood was clotting, etc. But they went on to become, from the big liability, that 5-game winning streak. If that defense isn't just playing with its hair on fire and just out of its mind with the takeaways, you probably don't get those 5 wins. And so that impressed me, not just that it turned around, but that he had the wherewithal, after all, to make it happen. And I got to tell you, Zach, that's the first time since Vance Joseph popped up on my radar, so dating all the way back to 2015 when the Broncos, under year one Gary Kubiak, tried to hire him as defensive coordinator before Wade. Last year's little modest turnaround in the middle of the season, Zach, was the first time I had an inkling. And I went, oh, okay, I guess this is why the NFL just seems to love Vance Joseph more than what his perception is outside the league.
I mean, I don't want to come off like a full-blown hater, so in the interest of saying something kind about him, I'll agree with you, Chad. We saw what the defense was, though, when they weren't forcing turnovers, and that's the same as they always were under VJ, pretty lousy. And you talked about rallying. Well, the bar was kind of low after giving up 70 points. It seemed like if they gave up anything less than 70 per game, it was a win for Vance Joseph. And it's just, you have to have higher standards for that defense, Chad, especially when you have probably the league's best cornerback and at the time, one of the league's best safeties on your side.
Let me tell you some things that, just to answer the question here for our boy. Let me blow this up. That'll do it. Let's just take a look at how this defense finished last year. You're seeing this on screen, yeah, Zach?
Yep.
All right, net yards, Broncos finished 29th. Now, keep in mind, before I should set the stage here, one of the reasons you're seeing bottom 10 in these first 4 rankings is because the hole that defense dug itself the first quarter of the season, even becoming suddenly the 2015 Broncos defense from week 7 on, would not have been enough to forestall this, okay? But In the final analysis, they finish as the 29th ranked defense in yards per game, 30th, Zach, in yards per play. I mean, just that Miami game alone inflated this beyond repair. Points per game, they finished 27th. Rushing, this is the big one here, though, because I got to be frank, Zach. These other ones, I mean, yeah, it's still slightly inflated from that Miami game. Go look at the stats. It's ridiculous. But this is the one that really persisted, the rushing inadequacies throughout the entire season. Like, even when that defense was playing, I'll just call it its best ball over the win streak, they still really struggled to stop the run. But they made some big improvements up front this offseason, so I'm optimistic that can change. As a passing defense, they finished just outside the bottom 10 at 22nd. But check this out, Zach. Number 1 in fumble recoveries. They ranked tied for 12th in total takeaways. Yikes, this is a problem. 52 sacks on the season, was good for 27th in the league. And if this defense is going to even come close to kind of bouncing back from last season, Zach, you got to produce more than that. You got to be better than, 27th when it comes to pressure. And with a healthy Baron Browning, a healthy Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, we'll see what Jonah Ellis can contribute, and then John Franklin Myers. There are some improvements. Zach Allen in year 2. I'm kind of hopeful. I wouldn't maybe say optimistic fully, but I'm hopeful. And then third downs, look, this is a sign of quality. This genuinely is. To finish as the second best defense on third down is a genuine sign of competency. So give him his props there, but ouch. And again, this is one of those numbers in the red zone, Zach, finishing 22nd, that was hyperinflated by that 1-5 start.
We could give him credit for sure for the third down percentage, but we have to also keep in mind how many offenses were starting on short fields because of the own Broncos offense, either turning the ball over or, forcing a punt deep in their own territory. But you look at those numbers, I mean, they can't stop the run. They had trouble stopping the pass, and they weren't getting a lot of interceptions. They got some fumble recoveries, but to allow a touchdown on almost 60% of every red zone trip, I'm not asking, Chad, for the 2015 Broncos defense. I'm just asking for week-to-week consistency and to step up when it matters. And that's been a trademark of VJ's defense is they crumble when the pressure gets tough. Just look at week 1 against Jimmy Garoppolo and the Raiders.
Yeah, that was brutal. And, the Kareem Jackson hit that ended up really being the final dagger in that particular game. But as Scott says, they started poorly. But look, the final 9 games, the Broncos go 5-4. 20.8 points per game is what the Broncos defense averaged. Would have been good for 11th in the tied anyway for 11th in the NFL. So it wasn't all bad, but Zach, I'll agree with you on this. The depths of the incompetency that was showed at times early in last season was so deep that you can't help but still be in a posture of caution and concern and like, okay, let's hope that really was just an anomaly and just a freak weird thing. So jury's still out, I guess, on BJ.
Well, if we're taking things out, which we can't do in real life, it's still only 11th. Is that truly the best, Chad? Because historically in his VJ's career, he's never had a top 10 defense. I think 12th was his best. So you can take it out if you want, but we don't do that in the NFL. He still allowed 70 points, and that week 3 showing was an utter embarrassment. And don't take my word for it about having someone on the ready, about his job security being tenuous. You wouldn't have hired someone of Jim Leonard's caliber and ability as a coach if you didn't have concerns about VJ in year 2 under Sean Payton.
I'm gonna concur real fast, and then we're grabbing Phil with Michaela saying, by the way, give our best to the little man, give our best to Cooper. Ugh, that Jets game was so painful. Zach, yes, the Dolphins game is what everyone remembers, right? Because of the historical gravity of relinquishing 70 points and what was it, 750 something yards from scrimmage. That's what everyone's going to remember. But for me, the actual dagger really was that Jets game, because Sean Payton had not only talked all that smack during the summer, right? But like, it's your revenge opportunity on Hackett, so to speak. And then to get just utterly dealt with, as one of my best friends, John Zambrano, would say, you got dealt with, right? Like, you just got handled. That was when I fell off the Russ train for good. That's where I was like, adios. I guess he is washed. I'm out. But that Jets game, I don't know how well you recollect it, but I'll concur with Michaela on that.
Yeah, that's what's one for sure. But for me, it's something I talked about, I think, last night, if not Thursday. That would be the Patriots game, Chad, a game the
Yeah.
Broncos had to have late in the season. And I just pulled up the stat line for that game. Bailey Zappi, 25 of 33, 256, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. You had PS2 failing to guard Devontae Parker when it mattered most. Again, that's the hallmark of a VJ defense, is they fall apart. They don't have that mental fortitude of a Wade Phillips unit, for example.
Let's see what's on Phil's mind down in Tucson, proving every single day that Broncos country is not a geographic location, baby. It's a state of being. He says, "Good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Just sending some love. Thank you, bro. I'm traveling. Catch the pod later tonight." Well, hey, dude, safe travels. He concludes with Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Thank you, Phil. Very grateful to have you in the community, and very thoughtful of you to drop some support, knowing that you're going to be watching it later mainly. So thank you, big dog. Very, very, very cool. Zach, what do you make of, just since I still have this sheet up, right? The end of season, the season in review, I should say, document that the Broncos provide us. What do you make of Sean Payton's offense? Granted, year one of Sean Payton, and less than ideal fit, Russell Wilson, right? But they finish points per game averaging 21. That's good for 19th. Yards, bottom 10. Yards per play, bottom 10. Passing, bottom 10. Low volume passing attack. Fumbles lost. Thank you, Russ. Bottom 10. But only picked off 9 times. 8 of them were Russ. 1 of them were Stidham. Third down, 21st. So barely avoiding the bottom 10. The red zone, 20th, also narrowly missing out. But overall, your thoughts on Sean Payton's year one body of work, as less than ideal as the circumstances were as far as personnel and quarterback.
The fumbles can be attributed to Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and that's kind of the point I always make. It's neither black nor white; it's gray. There were several hands that were dirtied in terms of the Broncos 2023 rankings, and largely I do owe it to a coach and a quarterback, Chad, who were simply not compatible. It's one of the things you have to have if you want to be a successful offense, especially when the head coach doubles as the OC. And as we came to find out, they just weren't simply good together. But there were times when the offensive line was too leaky. You couldn't blame Russell Wilson for that. There were times when the receivers dropped passes. The tight ends were mostly a no-show. The running game was stonewalled because the line couldn't get pushed, and also because Javonte Williams lost his vision. There were so many factors at play, but having the quarterback now that Sean Payton is comfortable with will bump those numbers up, Chad.
So I want to draw your attention to something over here. You can see here in the passing yards, Wilson, of course, finishing as the team lead, just over 3,000, and Stidham in his 2 starts, 496. So we often talk about, Zach, that, it was slightly better, Stidham, those 2 games. Like the offense seemed slightly more like on point and competent, but like nothing that jumped off the screen, so to speak, right? Or jumped off the field where you're like, wow, that was sure an upgrade making the move. But check this out. If you were to extrapolate Stidham's 2 games, so 496 passing yards, over the course of a 17-game season, my dog would have that 4,200 passing yards, Zach. When's the last time a Broncos quarterback eclipsed 4,200 passing yards? Been a long time. Because of the low volume, that's why you got Sutton, despite his double-digit tutties, only at 700 yards. Judy still only 3/4 of the way to breaking 1,000 for the first time, etc. But what I'm getting at, I guess, here is that even if it is Stidham, and Stidham to me is like bottom of the barrel of these 3 quarterbacks. I'm sorry to say it, but like he is. This offense is going to be better. Is it going to have the explosive dynamic? That remains to be seen, because that's the one thing I'll give Russ is like, you didn't really see it till the chips were down, but he still could drop that moon ball in, and there still was that explosive dynamic as a threat. We'll see if Bo Nix can bring that consistently when he finally gets the nod. Stidham, Wilson, etc. But this just goes to show you, like, the volume. Look at this, like Sutton again with the yardage. It's going to be better in 2024. To what degree, I'm not sure. but regardless of which quarterback ends up getting the lion's share of snaps, I'm confident in that.
You touched on something too, that when Jarrett Stidham was QB1, there was comparable play to Russell Wilson. That was, to me, recency bias, just like VJ's 70-point disaster. If he was even slightly decent because of how bad Russ was toward the end, Stidham was going to look better by default. But you're right. Having even just a little bit of stability at quarterback will make every other positional group that much better. But it starts, and I agree with what Rock said in the comments here, the Broncos need to be a run-first team. You can't put the ball in Bo Nix's hands and expect those moon balls like you were talking about, Chad, with Russell Wilson. That comes with veteran experience and the ability to play backyard football. But if you play within the strictures of Sean Payton's system, do the safer throws, but lean on a running game that keeps you out of second and third and long, that will be the biggest help for everyone involved.
Well said. Eric Young with a super chat and a message saying just wanted to send some love to Broncos country. I'm not going to make you feel bad about it, but you know this. Broncos for life. Thank you, Eric. Much love and respect, big dog. Really. Welcome. And I don't think it's your first super chat, but really appreciate you, big dog. Zach, off the top of your head, I'm going to test you.
Yeah.
Apologies. We didn't talk about this, so he's not prepared for this. When was the last season the Broncos had a double-digit sack artist? What season was it?
2019.
So close, dude. Vaughn gets 8 in 19. I only know this because I was researching it today for a Baron Browning piece, right? Would you believe that the last time a Broncos defender totaled 10 or more sacks in a season was 2018 when both Vaughn and Chubb, they finished a combined 26 and a half? It's been that long. Over that span, you also had back-to-back seasons, Zach, where an interior defender not named Aaron Donald led your team in sacks. That's kind of how dry it's been.
Man, that's crazy. It's going on, 7 seasons now without a double-digit sack. Some teams have 2 or 3 of those guys in 1 year, but that's also, harkens back to your point, the pressure and the sacks and the production you get from your edge rushers. We went over the stats from 2023. Those have to be exponentially better in 2024. And having Baron Browning, having Nick Benito take another step and using a high-round draft pick on Jonah Ellis, there really is no excuse for those numbers not to go up.
No. But, there were some interesting things that took place last year, some cool things like, for example, finally snapping the streak, the Chiefs. Now you've got to snap the Raiders streak, and quickly. But, guys, this is your last call for topics, questions. Eric says, could have been better if they would have kept Shaq Barrett. Yeah, but, here's what's funny about that, Eric. We talked about this last night because over the weekend, Shaq Barrett announced his retirement, in case you missed it. So Zach and I were talking about this last night. Does Shaq Barrett become the player he did in Tampa in Denver? I don't think he does, dude. Honestly, I don't think he does. Like, some players, Zach, do need kind of that change of scenery and that feeling of being rejected or that feeling of having to prove themselves. You know what I mean? Like, the Broncos obviously did not think Shaq Barrett was a guy that could even come close to being a sack champ. And he did. The very next year he left the Broncos. Like, year 1 in Tampa Bay, 19 and a half, leads the NFL. Bucks win the Super Bowl. If the Broncos would have had, Zach, any inkling that was in store, he never would have left the Mile High City. So it's just one of those things that are meant to be, so to speak. Like, he wasn't meant to really build his NFL star in Denver. He needed to go somewhere else like Tampa Bay.
I also try to compare the supporting cast he had in both spots, Chad, and except for Von Miller, it's not comparable in the least. Tampa Bay was loaded on defense during his prime there. I mean, the linebacking core itself with Devin White, Levante David, and you had Vita Vea up front taking up blocks, some other players. That defense was absolutely elite, and he needed that in the second stint of his career.
Eric, when's the last time they had a 1,000-yard rusher? That would be 2019, Philip Lindsay, his second 1,000-yard season, back-to-back, right? So he becomes the first undrafted running back ever to achieve that feat, make a Pro Bowl as a rookie, as a true undrafted rookie, not as an alternate, Zach. You were voted to the Pro Bowl. That was really cool. But, yeah, 2019 was right? Yeah, 18 was his rookie year. 19 it would have been because Gordon didn't achieve it. And post-Gordon, Javonte came close in 2021. ironically, as the number 2 running back. But yeah, it's in 2019. But Pookie did get over 900 as a rookie that year.
So you mean to tell me this decade, the Broncos haven't had a player with double-digit sacks nor 1,000 yards?
When you put it that way, but here's something interesting. So pop quiz and extra credit if anybody knows this in the chat. I'm going to give you a very brief moment to answer it. All I need is the name. Just give me or the number. You'll see what I mean. So pop quiz. Before Peyton Manning, what was the franchise record for passing touchdowns in Denver? Either the number and or who owned the record. Ding, 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 ding. I'm just waiting to see. Does anyone in the chat know this? Stay off Google. Come on now. Keep it legit. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, you ran out of time. I'll tell you, it was shared by Jake Plummer and John Elway, Zach. 27 touchdowns. That was the franchise record. Russell Wilson passed for 26 last year in year 1 of Sean Payton, which is the most by a Broncos quarterback since Peyton Manning 2014. So that does put it close, Michaela. Michaela's throwing down Jay Cutler. He came close. He was like, pre-Peyton, he was, I think that Pro Bowl year he had in 2008, I think was his, it was either the 3rd or 4th best in touchdowns Broncos all time. But Zach, it does kind of put it into perspective how Sean Payton did get blood out of that turnip last year, as painful as it was at times.
I was going back and forth, Cutler or Jake Plummer. I knew for certainty it couldn't be Tim Tebow, so it makes sense. And it's crazy that Peyton Manning comes in and pretty much doubles that record, Chad. It shows you how much he meant to the franchise when he came to the Mile High City, huh?
Yeah, because 27, yeah, exactly. 55, 27 times 2. 54. Golly, man. We had it so nice when Peyton was here, dude. I mean, golly. All right, guys, a couple messages for you. Then we're going to dip out. Don't leave quite yet.
Another tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every podcast, check out mhhmerch.com. It gets you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
A mile high salute to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight, helping us keep the lights on. We're at the tail end of the NFL summer. I mean, this is the second to last MHH podcast episode.
Thank God.
Before the summer ends. We got one more Thursday night, and then it's training camp, and it's on like Donkey Kong. So shout out to Michaela, the Duchess. Glad to hear about Mom. Sam Bam throwing down twice. The Ronk on Facebook. Eric Flynn being so consistent lately. Taylor Christensen. The Papa Bear, talk about consistent every single show. We love you, David. Tucson Phil, and then Eric Young. Much love and respect, you guys. Enjoy your week. Keep it dialed at MHH, though, because tomorrow's going to be, and the Ronk, of course, closing things off. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. But tomorrow, we're going to get some action. It's been June 11th was the last time we had a Broncos presser. We get a Broncos presser tomorrow, so keep it locked on milehighhuddle.com or si.com/NFL/Broncos. Easier just to remember, milehighhuddle.com. Keep it locked here also on YouTube and Facebook, because you know that Carl and Nick will be breaking things down tomorrow night, the pressers, etc. And then Zach and I will be back Thursday.
Have a great start to your week. We'll see you Thursday to recap the start of training camp. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.